Welcome back to the Hood News Fantasy Football Podcast. This is episode 35, Week 8 previews, Part 1. I got my boy with me, BBTB.
Finally, my name is mentioned before MFB. Finally.
I'm
Golly.
really excited about that. I'm your host, Keem. We're going to jump into these matchups. No MFB today. He got busy. He's in what we like to call a blender. So he wasn't able to make this episode. But we're going to get into it. There's 16 games this week. There are no buys, week 8. For the first time in a while, I think. I looked it up earlier.
Anyways, since week 4.
So, wait, what?
No,
it's like the first time. No, the NFL in week 8 normally has buys, but this year they did not.
I did not know that. That's a crazy fact.
Yeah. It's just random. But anyways, good for football, good for fantasy, or good for, I guess, some people, unless you're playing against like a really good player. Anyways, Vikings versus Rams, Thursday Night Football. You obviously start Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold, you start him. You start. Is there anyone on the Vikings side that you want to sit? Actually,
I wouldn't. No, you're going to start Aaron Jones. I'd flex Addison if you need a flex because the Rams do not have a good defense. So I think you could flex Addison this week.
I put Addison in flex range. That's it's pretty straightforward on the Vikings side. On the Rams side, Kupp is back. So
yeah, finally, man.
To say, bro. I mean, do you think he gets? Have you read anything on whether or not he'll get a full allotment of snaps, or is it going to be like limited on his first game back?
I personally think I didn't read anything, but I think he might be limited because they probably want him for like the rest of the season. They got Puka Nacua coming back the week after, so they kind of want to see that duo kind of shine with Kyron. So I don't think that you should play him. I feel like you just watch and see, just because Vikings also a good defense.
You don't start Cooper Kupp, really?
It's the same thing what I said.
Maybe with like limit your expectation, but you start Kupp, bro. If you have Kupp in your lineup, there's not a lot of players you start over Kupp.
I know. No, I would definitely, but this is just the first week that he's back. He could get limited on snaps. Like it's a short week too, so he's like, so I'm
Kupp
not.
Or Garrett Wilson.
Oh, Garrett Wilson, done.
Over Cooper Kupp?
Just for the week, bruh. Rest of the season starting the week after Cooper Kupp.
No, we're just talking about this week. We're talking about this week. Tank Dell or Cooper Kupp?
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, I'm making sure, bro. I want to see how crazy you are. Wait, Stephon Diggs or Cooper Kupp? Stephon Diggs plays against...
Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs.
Against the Lions? Or not the Lions, sorry.
Colts.
Against the Colts, yeah. Bro, if you have Cooper Kupp, anyone listening, play Cooper Kupp. Do not sit him.
Look, I know. I'm not saying don't sit him. I'm just saying don't get your expectations high. But like last week, like I said the same thing about Amari Cooper. But Amari Cooper, he got a touchdown. Homie doesn't get a touchdown. He gets 7 fantasy points. That's obviously not what you want from that big star of a player. Well, so I'm just saying if Cooper Kupp doesn't...
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was saying that we said that they would like try and feature their wide receivers, the Jets, with Devontae Adams and then Amari Cooper over in the Bills. The Jets didn't get a chance to with Devontae Adams, but Amari Cooper was in the end zone last week and they found him there. That's true. Look, if you have Minnesota right now, because of last week against the Lions, they're the number 1 matchup for wide receivers, according to Yahoo, for half PPR. How about Tutu Atwell, who did decent last week? He had 9 targets, 6 receptions. Obviously, with Cooper Kupp back, all those receivers kind of lose value on that Rams offense. Is Tutu flex worthy? Do you just ignore everyone else and see how the offense operates? Because the following week is probably going to be Puka. So
yeah. Well, I feel like Tutu Atwell could be flex worthy, but like kind of a desperation flex.
Okay.
I'm not too high on Atwell. Obviously, I'd have Kupp over Tutu Atwell. But yeah, but with Cup though, I don't think he's gonna have that 8 receptions, 9 receptions, 100+ yard kind of game. I feel like they're gonna limit him a little bit, kind of scheme up for Cup a little bit better. So obviously you're gonna flex Cup, but don't get your expectations that high.
Yeah, Cup's gonna be fine, especially in PPR. Moving on from that matchup, Packers
Mhm.
Jags. On the Packers side, who's gonna be the receiver? Who goes off? Is it Reed? Is it Dobbs? Is it the Tucker Craft, the tight end? Is it all of them? Is
So
Dontayvion Wicks get in there? Does Christian Watson get a touchdown?
look, I have this game honestly as a shootout. I think this game could possibly, yeah.
We've said it because the reason I ask which of the receivers are going to get a touchdown is because we've said before, and we're going to continue to say, start your players against the Jacksonville defense. Anyone that's playing against Jacksonville, you start them. The problem is there's a lot of mouths to feed in the Packers offense, and Jordan Love be slinging it. So
Yeah.
that's why I asked that question. What are your thoughts?
Well, the thing is, the over under on the game is 49.5, which is a pretty high over under. I
Yep.
think that there's going to be a lot of points scored. So
Okay.
the person that I'd sit this week would be Watson. I'm still not a fan of
Christian
Watson.
Watson. Okay.
Reed and Dobbs are my top two. Third option would probably be Tucker Craft, and then fourth would be a desperation Dontayvion Wicks. They can all
Okay.
potentially eat though, you know? So
That's the tough part is that you don't really know who is going to be the one that goes off,
yeah.
So it can be a toss up. Reed is more of a lock and Dobbs is more of a lock. Tucker Craft did well last week. He had a touchdown, if I'm not
No.
mistaken. He did not have a touchdown. Okay.
Last week, no.
He had no, he did. I mean, he did decent. He had a touchdown. Three receptions, 33 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets against Houston.
Oh yeah, sorry. The week before he did not have a touchdown.
Come on, man. Focus. So yeah, I mean, no. Jordan Love likes to find Tucker Craft in the end zone. Before this week, I mean, they played Arizona. He didn't have a touchdown. The week before, he had 2 against the Rams. And then the week before, he had a touchdown against Minnesota and a 2-point conversion. So he seems to be an end zone target for Jordan Love. So I like Tucker Craft against the Jacksonville defense that gives up a lot of points in the air. Tucker Craft's a good tight end option this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the other side, the Jags, who do you like from the Jags?
Honestly, this is one of my 55th wild takes of the season. I kind of like Christian Kirk this week. All right. I think this might be a Christian Kirk kind of game. The way the offense, because they're going to target Brian Thomas. They're going to scheme up for Brian Thomas. They're going to scheme up for Evan Ingram. I feel like Christian Kirk can probably get open, hit the flat, hit the outs, hit the fades, hit the slants, and really work that nickel that the Packers have. So I think this could be a Kirk kind of game. Now, I wouldn't say he's scoring a touchdown, but I feel like he can get some reception and yards. So I feel like you could flex Kirk this week.
So what about Brian Thomas? How do you feel about him?
I don't know, man. That man locked up Stephon Diggs last week, man.
You think that Jair Alexander is going to be on Brian Thomas?
He has to be. He's Brian Thomas is the deep ball threat, and Jair's. I think Jair right now is probably like a top 5 corner.
He's up there with Pat Surtain, honestly. But do you sit him this week, Brian Thomas, for other options? People picked up Brian Thomas late in the draft. You probably traded him away because of his value. He's got a lot of value right now. He's been doing really well. If you lost a receiver this last week, we lost Godwin, we lost Evans is for a few weeks, and then also Ayuk for the season. So people are there's a lot of receivers missing, a lot of top level receivers. Brian Thomas might be your only option. Do you try to look for an alternative, or do you just start him and hope for the best?
I'd probably say start him and hope for the best because he is a great deep ball threat. He's caught in many of them all year. So
all it takes is one blown coverage and he's gone. Like that's touching.
Exactly, and that's pretty much your double digit fantasy points for your flex position or wide receiver 2 position. I'd probably say start Brian Thomas because I also like I said, I think this game should be a shootout with the high over under at 49 and a half.
Okay.
Like so I feel like they should be solid. Like I feel like everyone might like Kirk will do the best, and then Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram can do decent.
If Travis Etienne plays this game, do you play him or do you sit
No,
him? Sit
no.
him.
2 weeks ago, I said Bigsby take over season, and then
Last
it's been
week,
happening.
I told you I dropped him in a league. He's still on waivers.
That's crazy.
So I'm telling you,
But
I
that's
dropped him.
that's the ticking time bomb that you were talking about.
Bro, all it takes is one game. This game, he has Green Bay, right? Let's say he plays and he's like fighting for his job back, you know?
Yeah,
He knows
yeah.
that Tank's taking his job. And he's, how old is ETN now? Like 20.
5.
He's not that old. He's 25, right?
Yeah, I can look it up, but yeah, 25.
Tank's a little bit younger. ETN missed his first year with what was a ACL, I think. But either way, he missed time. And then Tank Bigsby's been looking really good and a lot better than him in
Really
these
good.
games. So it's
Mhm.
like he's going to be fighting for his spot back if he plays. But he plays Green Bay. Let's say he does good, right? Then
Mhm.
he has Philly, then Minnesota, then Detroit, then a bye week, then Houston. So like he doesn't have good matchups upcoming.
Yeah.
So in my head, like if you have ETN, if he does go off this game, I would try to move him. Honestly, like I just
like trade him away while he's high.
trade him away while he like just say like, oh, he's back, right? Because if he plays this game, I think he's going to play like really hard because he's going to say like, look, I want my
100%.
job back. It's once if he gets beat out by Tank Bigsby, they have no reason to keep Etienne. They're
Yeah.
like, well, we got our back. We don't need you, you know.
True.
And Tanks look good, and Travis Etienne's been injury prone, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not big on Etienne.
Yeah, like we said multiple times in the past, if you could finesse a homie, man. So
it's crazy. You know what's funny is I wish MFB was here because he was on the same page as me. But last year we both faded Etienne, and he did his thing. He went off, did good, had great numbers, great rushing total yards and receiving yards, and he was doing a lot.
Mhm.
So I feel like we were a year early on Etienne, and this year was the year that it was like to avoid him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
that's true. That's true. Honestly, I had ETN as a fade just because
I was a fade last year. This year he was like a whatever. Like he might like continue to pick it up. I didn't think he would crash like this, but the injuries have just caught up to him.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think it'd be this bad, but I just felt like there was just better players that were like getting drafted in the late second, early third that were just better than him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone else. I mean, Evan Ingram, if he's healthy, you start him.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't play, do you try the Brenton Strange or no?
No, I'd probably look for a
In a
different option.
shootout? Okay.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, he could be an end zone threat because when he started playing, like when he was in there for Ingram, I think caught like 1 or 2 touchdowns in the end zone.
Yeah.
So he could be an end zone threat.
You start Tank, especially if ETN doesn't play. If ETN does play, do you start Tank Bigsby?
I'd still start him.
I'd still start him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a bad matchup for running backs, about middle of the pack.
Mhm.
Anyways, let's move on from this matchup. Cardinals, Dolphins. Wait, that Packers Jaguars is that an overseas game? Or is it's a regular. No, it's not. It's here. It's in the US.
Here. Okay,
We're
cool.
good. Yeah, I thought we're done with the London games.
Mhm.
Cardinals, Dolphins. This is very easy on the Dolphins side. If Tua's back, you start all your Dolphins players. Every single one of them.
Dolphins fans, Miami Dolphin player owners are praying that Tua Tagovailoa is back.
You start Achane, you start Mostert. You could start Tua probably against this Cardinals defense, which
100%
did pretty good against Chargers last week. But you with just the weapons they have, Tyreek, Waddle, they're all plug them into your lineups. Waddle will be at least flex worthy. Like you should be able to plug him into your lineup, like fit him in there.
Yeah, if Tua Tagovailoa is back healthy, he should do his thing versus Cardinals.
Did you see the video of Tyreek? He said,
Oh
"Start
yeah,
me
yeah,
if you
yeah.
have me in fantasy."
He
Yep.
said he's like, finally start me this week. Start me this week. He's like
Yep. Yeah.
chanting
Yeah.
and like happy, you
He's
know.
he's ready. Bro, Tyreek, I love him. He's a dog, bro, and I like players
Mhm.
that actually care a lot about how they do in their games, and it's not just like a job for them. Like he likes to perform. He likes to get a ton of yards and get touchdowns, things like that. Like players and the ones that talk smack too. He talks smack, especially when they play against the Bengals. He talks smack on Eli Apple. He calls him trash, and like he'll say it
Yeah.
all the time. Like he literally be like, "Yeah, you're garbage." But you
Mhm.
like players like that are competitive and they talk crap and they back it up too. Like Tyreek's not the type of player to
Of
talk crap and then go out and be trash. Now,
100%.
Tua, it's been impossible for him to do anything. He had 2 targets in this game.
Yeah.
Horrible.
No.
Horrible. I have Tyreek in the league. We have Tyreek in the league. We're sharing a
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
hey, bro, come back, please. We need that
Yeah.
on our team. On the Cardinals side, Marvin Harrison Jr. has been underwhelming this season. And as a Cardinals fan, I am not happy to see that. How do you feel about Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I mean, you drafted him with your second round pick. You might gotta play him. Dolphins defense hasn't really been like amazing defensively. You know, Cardinals do have a decent offense with McBride there, Michael Wilson, James Conner running like a dog. He could
Yeah.
eat. It's just all it's just a toss up. Like I wouldn't put my hopes up, but if you got Marvin Harrison, you're probably gonna put him at the flex.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Dolphins are a terrible matchup for wide receivers, but like the worst right now in half PPR. I think that's a product of everyone just running the ball against the Dolphins once they're up. You know what I mean?
Or or at the same time, the Dolphins offense can't do anything. So there's so many 3 and outs that
Yeah,
the other team is just getting the ball so many times.
and they don't need to throw it. So the receivers, I mean, they played Jacksonville, who
Exactly.
doesn't have a lot. Buffalo.
Hmm.
This is before Tua was out, and then Tua got out in it was a game. It was game 2 against Buffalo,
Game 2 versus Buffalo.
and they ran the ball like crazy. James Cook had like 3 touchdowns on the ground, I think. And then Seattle,
Hmm.
Tennessee, New England. Tennessee doesn't have good receivers. New England doesn't have good receivers. Indianapolis, they had a bye week. Then Indianapolis had Anthony Richardson throwing the ball, so not really good receivers. So I don't think you should be worried about Marvin Harrison Jr. getting locked up or anything like that.
Hmm.
I think it's more to do with they just haven't had teams have not had to throw against Miami.
That's true. That's true.
So that's why
Yeah.
it shows you see them as the worst matchup.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Um, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, they play Chicago the following week, and then the Jets, and they have a bye. Then they have Seattle, Minnesota, Seattle, uh, and then New England. Minnesota matchups good. Seattle matchups are good. New England is like iffy. Um, but
Hmm.
but the Chicago and New York Jets the following 2 weeks are tough matchups.
Yeah.
What do you do with Marvin Harrison, man? People drafted him really early in the. We talked about this, I think, in the when we did studs and duds. He did not do well,
Yeah.
so
Per-
people drafted him early.
yeah, I mean, if they listened to the Hoodies podcast before the season, I was fading Marvin Harrison just because I'm not putting my early second round pick into a rookie
Yeah,
that's never set foot into the NFL. And I think MLB said it last video too that he was the highest like drafted rookie in fantasy football ever. You
yeah.
know,
As a
like
receiver, yeah.
exactly as a receiver. So it's like you should have faded him.
It,
That's just
it,
my
it
opinion.
it's yeah. He was going way too high in drafts. People had a lot of high hopes. It's usually those players that I mean, we've seen it before with players that everyone's like, oh, he's going to be amazing. He's going to do good. Like usually when they get blown up out of proportion, it's
Hmm.
the opposite happens. We saw that 2 years ago with Tony Pollard doing it back to the Cowboys with no Zeke. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's going to be the best. This is a
Hmm.
steal in the first round. Wherever you get him." Like he ended up being a bust. So Marvin Harrison Jr. has been outside of like one game where he went crazy, and then when they played Detroit and Washington, he had pretty good numbers. He had a touchdown both those games. Outside of that, he's looked pedestrian numbers like zero point 0.9 fantasy points week 1 against Buffalo,
Yeah.
4.6 against SF, 2 targets, 0 points against Green Bay. That's when he had the concussion, though.
Hmm.
And then Chargers, 6 targets, 3 receptions, 21 yards is not enough for a player drafted in the second round fantasy.
Hmm.
So I mean, if you have him and you can get rid of him, you can get value out of him. Uh, Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors.
Neighbors,
Yeah,
like
and that's the thing is
significantly.
he was the there was a lot of rookies this season that got drafted. You had Brian Thomas. I think best value is probably Brian Thomas.
Oh, by
And where
far,
you got him in the draft, yeah, Malik
by
Neighbors
far.
is pretty solid in the earlier rounds, but he hasn't been performing. Terrible QB, so that's his issue.
Yeah,
Um, anyways, James Conner, you start him. Kyler Murray, you start him. I think McBride, obviously, start him. Michael Wilson, the other receivers are probably a sit for me. I don't feel comfortable with them.
yeah. I mean, Michael Wilson could be a desperation kind of flex if you need someone you
Okay.
don't know who to play.
Yeah.
Just because I think Marvin Harrison's good at taking away attention, and the ball's got to go
True.
somewhere. So McBride and maybe Michael Wilson can do something.
Yeah.
So Michael Wilson could be desperation.
Desperation flex. Okay. I say sit him if you can sit him.
Mm.
Jets, Patriots. Jets have been terrible. What are they, 2-5 now?
2-5, bruh. Ever since they fired their head
Devontae
coach, man.
Adams, yeah, 2-5 on the Raiders, and then I saw a meme. Devontae Adams 2-5 on the Raiders, came to the Jets, 2-5 on the Jets, but with the homies though. like same situation, just like literally bad team, not able to win with a really pretty good defense too. Like they have a good defense. Their defense hasn't been. I mean, last game they gave up a lot of points to Russell Wilson, which is surprising to me.
Surprising.
I think they just got outcoached by Mike
Yeah.
Tomlin. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Look,
that's a
look,
good
bro.
team, and they're just not producing.
If the Jets cannot beat the Patriots, man, there is something wrong.
They're going to start
The Patriots
firing
should not win this
everyone.
game
They're
easily.
going to start firing. Everyone's going to get fired, starting with
Like,
Nathaniel Hackett. Get that homie out of there.
seriously, man. There's no way you should be losing to the Patriots. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's somehow a close game, you got to pull through with that victory, man. And I see all these guys like, yo, bro, we're 2-5. We have a stacked team. We need to give it to our best guys and let them go to work. Give it to the Garrett Wilson. Give it to Devontae Adams. Give it to Brees, man. Let's
I think,
run these Patriots defense down to the
yeah.
ground.
I think Devontae Adams has himself a game. I think Garrett Wilson does solid. They need to do something. They're gonna
Yeah.
have to do something, or they're all like literally. I don't. As a coach, I think they're kind of in a situation where this is just like a random guess, like
Mm-hmm.
theory.
Mm-hmm.
But the coaches are like so scared now that they're gonna all lose their jobs. So they're probably trying to be so like careful with what they do. You know how like when you try too hard to be too careful, you just mess with your
Yeah.
versus if you're
Exactly.
just like, nah, I'm just gonna be chill about it. It's fine. We're gonna be all right. Like, bro, look at your team. Look who you have. The
Yeah.
weapons, the offense. Like, I mean, it's like, why are you like this? It's not. It's a no brainer. Like, you guys should be
Yeah.
winning games easily too.
Easily. Like
So,
easily. But
yeah,
this is the ultimate test, though. This is the ultimate test. They go.
this
No,
isn't even a hard test, but this is like a
that's
make
what
or
I'm
break kind
saying.
of thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it might be a hard test for the Jets because they've been losing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Devontae Adams, you start him. Garrett Wilson, you start him. Brees Hall, they've been running a lot more with Brees Hall. He's been just taking over the backfield. They're
Mm-hmm.
ignoring Brandon Allen against a New England defense that's given up a lot of yards on the ground. You can play him with confidence. Brees Hall owners go and try and get Brandon Allen because he's done nothing the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so people that thought, oh, maybe he's flex worthy, that's out of the question. He's not flex worthy. So people probably are dropping him for other players to fill out their rosters if they're dealing with injuries, things like that. If you're Brees Hall manager, try and go trade for Brandon Allen on the low. Just like, hey, look, I just want my backup, and then try and get something there. On the Patriots side, on the Jets, Lazard, sit him.
Sit him.
I'm under. He could get a long tutty, like a long bomb, but I don't confidently start Lazard this week. You know,
Yeah.
You probably have better options than Lazard.
Mm-hmm.
Onto the Patriots. Hunter Henry's my only confident start, and against the Jets, it's not even that confident. But him and Drake May seem to be connecting pretty well. He had eight receptions on 9 targets last week for 92 yards. but the Jets defense is really good, so they
Mm-hmm.
might completely just demolish Drake May. He played against Houston, Jacksonville, which are both good matchups for QBs.
Mm-hmm.
This Jets defense might really be a true test for him. So we'll see. Ramondre's dealing with, I think it's a personal thing, but foot issue.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't play, do you play Antonio Gibson?
I feel like if you play any of the Patriots RBs, it might be a trap. Just
Yeah, I mean,
because
100%. It's the Jets are a good defense.
exactly, yeah. Like I know they gave up a shitty time touchdown to Najee Harris last week, but it was BS. So I think like I
Yeah.
don't even think you even start a Patriots running back, even if
Okay.
Ramondre is even healthy.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want that risk because like right now those guys are probably your flex, and you could possibly start a better flex than
Yeah.
those guys.
No, 100%.
You know,
Yeah.
so
I think, excuse me, in my opinion, you don't really want to start anyone on this team besides maybe Hunter Henry. And even him,
yeah.
he probably ends up with like 7 fantasy points tops. The
Hmm.
only receiver I would consider starting would be Demario Douglas, who had a week against Houston. The only reason I say that, he had a bad week against Jacksonville. That was not his fault. He was sick. So he was dealing with a sickness. Missed,
Mm.
according to if you look at Yahoo, the report, missed most of the second half in the loss. He woke up ill that day and then was throwing up apparently and like sick. So like he left pretty much after halftime. Like he didn't do much. He wasn't feeling well. So that kind of was what happened with him. So if you have him and you dropped him, I would pick him back up and stash him. They have pretty tough matchups upcoming, but they're
Hmm.
letting Drake May throw the ball and do his thing out there. And he's looked decent the last 2 weeks against some better, like not so hard defenses, but still, they might just have some garbage time work. So uh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't start Demario Douglas confidently, but he may put up some numbers. You never know.
Hmm.
Um, that's it for that matchup. On to the Ravens and Browns. This is going to be an interesting game because Jameis Winston is the starter for the Cleveland
Crazy.
Browns. Which I
Crazy.
said, if
Mm.
Winston's that tremendously helps Njoku's value, which is already high enough as it is.
Hmm.
But like Njoku now is probably one of the top 5 tight ends, like up there with Brock Bowers and McBride and those guys. Like
Um,
he,
the thing is, though, I think their value has gone up, but I think this week I'm not too sure just because of how good the Ravens defense is. I know if you guys watched the Bucks game last week, they gave up like 3 touchdowns at the end when it didn't really matter, so they probably weren't trying that hard. But this Baltimore Ravens defense is legit. So I feel like the only person you could really start confidently is Njoku, and then you could maybe flex Judy.
okay.
Maybe.
What about Tillman, the one who Cedric Tillman last week, who ended up with 12 targets, 8 receptions, 81
Uh,
yards? Do you sit and wait? Baltimore's been a great matchup for receivers. And that may
yeah.
have been just because of last week, all the receivers that caught the ball and that with Baker Mayfield throwing the ball. But it's week 8 now. So there's been a lot of data
Hmm.
already for players against the Baltimore Ravens. So they've been able to be thrown on, right?
Yeah.
So would you rather flex Cedric Tillman or would you rather flex Lazard?
Damn, that's a tough one.
I flex Tillman.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I'd
got to
slightly
realize
lean towards Tillman.
you got to realize Jameis Winston is not fighting for a starting job. Like he's not there. Like I am the franchise quarterback. Like he is a
Yeah,
backup. He's the third string technically.
technically,
And
yeah.
Thompson Robinson, whatever his name is, uh,
DTR.
Dorian Thompson Robinson. We're gonna say DTR going forward. I hope you guys listen to this part of the podcast. If I say DTR, I'm talking about him.
Hmm.
DTR had like a finger injury, but he's fine. He's healthy. There's nothing else. He was full participant in practice. But I think this is for the fans. I think they're like, hey, we know you guys have been dealing with Deshaun Watson. He's garbage. we're just going to have Jameis Winston go out there and sling it. And Jameis Winston can sling it all right. So I think that I would take Tillman over Lazard. I'd take him over Michael Wilson.
Would you take him over Bateman?
Okay, this is interesting because Zay Flowers did not practice on Wednesday due to his ankle. So if Zay Flowers doesn't play, I think you can play Bateman. Bateman's a start or a flex-worthy candidate for sure.
For sure.
But
100%.
him being the number one, you know what's interesting? I think that it might be a trap, Bateman, if Flowers doesn't play, because then he'll be the number one. And then the attention goes to him.
But at the same time, Mark Andrews was leading last week and likely took a lot of the targets away, like from himself, and gave it to the other guys. So I don't think it could be I don't think it's a trap. That's what if Zay Flowers is out, I don't think it's a trap. So I think Bateman is like flex worthy, getting that long ball in between 8 to 10 fantasy points in a half PPR league. So if you're happy with 8-10 points, like I think you flex him.
You start Mark Andrews. They've been getting him the ball.
You start Mark Andrews from here on out with confidence.
Okay.
I mentioned the press conference after the game 2 weeks ago. Sorry, I'm trying to think.
Think of the words.
No, sorry. So pretty much there was a press conference after the game 2 weeks ago, and Lamar literally said, I got to feed Mark Andrews. I got to get him in the end zone. And that's literally what's been happening the past 2 weeks. Got him 2 tutties last week. So here on out, Mark Andrews is the guy.
And now we know Lamar Jackson's not a capper. If he says something, he means it.
100%.
On to the Eagles, Bengals. Start everyone. That's what I have in my notes. Just there's not many players you want to sit this week.
Sit Zach Moss. I think you could sit Zach Moss this week.
Okay. No,
that's
about
the only one I could possibly think of.
Okay.
I wouldn't. Obviously, don't start the tight end of the Bengals. He's kind of irrelevant. And then go Dirt.
Both the tight ends there. They've been phased out of the offense.
Yeah, and then go Dirt is kind of like I don't know, like go Dirt. It's a toss up. Like
he didn't practice. He's still in with a hamstring.
Okay, so if he doesn't play, that's kind of a good thing, I think, because you won't be iffy about starting him or not. But if he does play, I'd probably not play him and go get like a different tight end.
Do you play the backup Calcaterra?
No, not even close.
Okay. So interestingly enough, he had 1 target, 1 reception, 5 yards last week. Jalen Hurts threw the ball 14 times last week. So,
bro, because he didn't need to throw it, bro. Giants were trash.
So Cincinnati has been a very good matchup for tight ends. If he is like a desperation tight end, you're in a league of like a 14-man league, and everyone's hoarding tight ends. I think you can desperation play Calcaterra as your tight end, but I would not look to him. Like there are definitely better options out there.
Yeah.
Devonta Smith, look for him to bounce back. They're going to throw the ball this game.
Definitely.
AJ Brown is locked. Saquon Barkley is a lock. Jalen Hurts is a lock. And then on the Bengals side, obviously Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and then Chase Brown. Zach Moss. I mean, they split carries last week. It was they didn't split. Chase Brown had, I think, 66, like 2/3 of the carries, and then 1/3, six carries went to Zach Moss. So Chase Brown's kind of taking over that backfield. They didn't do so well against Cleveland. They're playing at home against Philly. So I think Chase Brown is good to start. Like you said, Zach Moss, probably consider him.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
If you can look to sit him, do so. That's it for that matchup. Pretty straightforward. Not too difficult.
Pretty much it.
On to the Colts Texans. This one's interesting, man, because Anthony Richardson's back and he's healthy, and it sucks for fantasy, and it kind of sucks for the Colts too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson is just not been accurate, and I don't think I paid attention as much to him last year, and I
Hmm.
wasn't really aware of how inaccurate he was. But we talked about him in the preseason, and MFB mentioned he's not that accurate with his throws. And so if you if you can lock him down and not let him rush, like get out of the pocket and rush for yards and force him to throw,
Hmm.
he's not making a lot of completions. He's not accurate with his throws. And so,
Yeah,
I mean, go
I'm
ahead.
I'm I'm probably honestly I might have a pretty opposite take with a lot of what a lot of people are thinking, but this is a divisional game. This is actually for the to be who is going to be on the top of the
To be
division.
or not to be.
No, to be on the top of the division of the AFC South. So if the Colts win, they're on top of the South. If the Texans win, they'll still be on the top. I feel like this game could possibly come down to some kind of, I don't know if it'll be a shootout, but I feel like it'll be a close game within like, like a score almost like.
I I think this game is a serious test for Anthony Richardson. Not that like I think not that I think that they'll bench him
Hmm.
for what's the QB there again?
Flacco.
Joe Flacco, yeah. And not that they'll bench him for Flacco, but this is one of those times where it's like, man, do we have a franchise quarterback or not? Because you
Yeah.
have talented players like you have Michael Pittman, you have Josh Downs, who are both dealing with injuries, by the way.
Hmm.
Michael Pittman didn't practice on Wednesday. He's dealing with a back injury. He's dealing with it last week. And they were talking about putting him on IR, and then he played and caught a touchdown. Or he didn't.
Yeah.
No, he
That
didn't catch a
was,
touchdown. That was Tennessee.
I think that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was against Tennessee. But last week,
Hmm.
yeah. So he is not practicing. Josh Downs is dealing with a toe injury, uh, groin and toe injury. So he got hit in the nuts and then turf toe. So I don't know what's happening with that. But
Hmm.
uh, it, yeah, if he doesn't play, if Josh Downs doesn't play and Michael Pittman doesn't play, you do not want to start Anthony Richardson. I don't think there's much of a
100%.
shootout.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
not.
exactly. So,
He's
so
going to be
if
stuck with Adonai Mitchell, the rookie, and then Alec Pierce, and then I don't even know who's the third string after that.
Yeah, so pretty much if all those guys are playing, I feel like this should be a good game. If Pittman and Downs are not playing, you should sit Richardson, go stream a quarterback. But if they do all play, I feel like this could be a good game.
Jonathan Taylor, if he's healthy, you plug him back into your lineup. Michael
Yeah,
Pittman is the only receiver that's maybe flex worthy. Everyone else is pretty much a sit with
yeah.
Anthony Richardson as QB. It
Hmm.
could be a shootout. You know, Josh Downs could get a nice long touchdown. I'd hope you'd have better options than Josh Downs. I would hope that you could sit him this week. If you can't sit him and you play him, just, you know, make a prayer and hope for the best. But because
Yeah,
it should be a divisional shootout, but who knows? On the Texans side, Tank Dell had a donut last week, but Stroud said he needs to get Tank Dell the ball, and they're going to try
yeah.
to find a way to do that.
Mhm.
And we heard the same thing from Lamar about um,
Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews. And so when that happened, he got him the ball, and he's been doing it for a few weeks now. So I really think that Tank Dell has a bounce back week this week.
Hmm.
If he doesn't, you can get pretty worried. Stephon Diggs bounce back week as well. Stroud is much better playing at home, and they are at home this game. So
Hmm.
Mixon's been unreal this season. The 3 games that he played healthy, he's had over 25 fantasy points in those games. So
Hmm.
keep Mixon in your lineup. Make sure you get Dameon Pierce if you own Mixon. You need that
100%.
backup just in case something happens to Mixon.
Kimo, was
Um,
it Joe Mixon your player to fade?
he's old. He's injured, bro. He started. He missed 3 games. You know what I'm
Yeah, I'm just saying,
saying?
bro. I'm just saying.
Look, bro. There's many reasons why I said to fade him, but
Hmm.
yeah, I
But you were
well
wrong, man.
in that episode I said, "Hey, bro, maybe that was a bad take. That was my bonus fade, and I was trying to do something there. Clearly, I was trying to do too much. If he gets injured again, though, I'm gonna say is, hey, he got injured twice, and I said, you know, injury prone, getting old. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
They ran the life out of him over in Cincinnati, so I think that was my worry about him too. That they just ran him too much. He was running like 20 rushes a game. He was the workhorse back for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
in Cincinnati. So I'm like, bro, he's gonna lose a step and he's gonna like be injury prone, and he looks pretty good right now.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna just not talk about that anymore. Uh, that's about it for the Texans. I try to look away from Dalton Schultz. I know there's no Nico Collins there, and targets have to go somewhere. They're not going to him. He had 2 targets last game against Green Bay.
Yeah.
Don't avoid Schultz. He could
Yeah.
have a game this week in the shootout. Oh, if he does, drop him to the waivers. He's a bomb. Let someone
Yep.
use their waiver claim on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for that matchup. On to the last matchup of this episode: Titans Lions. This is going to be all Lions, 0 Titans. They lost DeAndre Hopkins. He went to the Chiefs. A bit of news if you aren't paying attention to that. So it's just Ridley and Tyler Boyd there now.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Huge news for the Titans and for the Chiefs, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so Mason Rudolph, I think, is still the starter. You don't really want to start anyone. I mean, the Lions secondary sucks, and Ridley was very frustrated the last game. Like, he's just not getting the ball. I think he got injured and then left the game and came back.
Mm-hmm.
But he was getting frustrated. DeAndre Hopkins said, I think they were doing a little press conference when he got traded, and he said, I'm happy to be out of that ass situation. Like, he literally said
He
that.
said that word for word?
Yes. Hey, go look at the video.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So he clearly was not happy there. Ridley probably feels the same.
100%.
Ridley's probably like, yeah. So they're not happy with that situation. They're not able to get the ball to them. The throws are inaccurate. They got Mason Rudolph in there slinging it, not really well.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys are upset, and they're gonna keep yapping like, "Hey, we want the ball. You need to get us the ball." So we shall see what happens. But
yeah, I feel like you should bench the Titans wide receivers just because I feel like last week, I know Lions, their defense didn't look that great, but they played a really good Minnesota Vikings offense. So, but Titans have a horrible offense. Lions have a decent defense. I think the only one you could possibly play is Pollard with a desperation flex of Ridley. But that's pretty much it. Don't get your hopes up on Ridley, but Pollard you could possibly play.
I think Boyd gets some garbage time work. I'll be honest with you. Like when the game's out of hand and the Lions don't care anymore.
Like the Lions are just like dogging them, and then they just want to.
Yeah. And they're just like, this game is already done. Like, they can't do anything on us.
But like, you want to put your faith into a garbage time points. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of tough.
If you're desperate, I think you could.
Like 16-man league desperate, sure. But
look, I'm just gonna say that I think you can get some garbage time work. Detroit side of the ball, I don't know if you start Goff in this game. I think they're just gonna run the ball like crazy, like Gibbs and Monty.
No, I feel like the people are going to get in the end zone. I think Laporta is due for a touchdown. I think Laporta gets touchdowns.
Jameson Williams got suspended for 2 games, so he's out. And I think Tim Patrick is the next receiver up. I don't think he's doing anything.
No, it's Reynolds. It's Reynolds, number 8.
Craig Reynolds?
Something, yeah. I think he's number 8.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that offense is still going to move regardless. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like Goff will be decent enough that you can start him. I feel like he'll finish in between 17 to 20 fantasy points.
Dude, I think they just like double like Jahmyr Gibbs, like David Montgomery, just ground and pound, bro. They'll throw the ball, and they will. I'm not saying Goff's going to score a touchdown. Like, he'll throw a touchdown, I'm sure, or 2, or 3. But like, is it what you want from your quarterback? As a streamer, you could stream Goff this week, but I don't know.
Look, the game should be over by the end of the third quarter, and I feel like Goff should have a very fire game to be finished off by the third quarter. I feel like in 3 quarters he can get 20 fantasy points. And if it's somehow a close game, extra points right there. So I feel like you can start Goff. It's like I'm taking Goff over Chemo's favorite Jameson Winston, whatever his name is.
I'd take James Winston. He'll have 3 picks and 4 touchdowns.
No, you're crazy. I'm taking Goff, brother. I'm taking Goff.
Man, you're a
But
hater, bro. You've been a hater on him ever since I brought him up.
hey, honestly, by the way, I think I forgot to mention it. By the way,
You
one,
did.
luckily, but I think Nick Chubb's value goes up too because Watson doesn't have to like. I feel like a lot of checkdowns Jameson Winston likes to throw because I remember with him being with the Saints a little bit, he was giving a lot of checkdowns to Kamara, just like Carr, and so I feel like Nick Chubb could
Yeah,
also be really solid.
we didn't really talk about Nick Chubb. I mean, against the Ravens, it's hard to run on them, but Nick Chubb is a dog, and he scored a touchdown last week. So if you have
Yeah,
Chubb, he's if you
I think you flex him.
he's flex worthy. I'd hope you'd have a better flex option than a running back against the Ravens, but
Yeah,
I think if you have a better RB2 option out there, I think you take him. But honestly, if they get close enough to the end zone, like Chubb's going to get in there.
100%, 100%. I have Chubb finishing like low double digits
Okay.
as like 11 to 13 points
Yeah. Okay.
in half. But
yeah, we didn't talk about Chubb, so good to bring it back up.
mhm. But for Laporta owners, I think Laporta is due for a touchdown. I think this is the week he gets him. I think you start him.
We talked about Laporta, and he's played 6 games, and he has 17 targets in 6 games. Like, it's horrible. And Tennessee has been a terrible matchup for tight ends.
That is true. But this is just like a hope.
Look,
somehow Jameson Williams out.
I'm going to say Jameson Williams out for 2 games. If Laporta capitalizes on those 2 games, you might be able to trade him away with like the 2 games in hand. If he doesn't do it and he just plays bad both those games and you don't have Laporta, maybe you can go trade for him and just give up someone like that's not as good but producing more. Yeah, Laporta owners, hang tight. It's not much you can do with a tight end that you draft in the 3rd round. And this is why, what do you do with the tight ends in the draft?
Fade them. Fade them every time. Always.
Baby TB, fade the quarterback, fade the tight end. That's his motto for
every
draft.
Single year. Trust me, it works every time.
Yep. How many championships do you have?
2.
How many leagues were you in like last year? Like 4 or 5?
4. That's still good though. You have 50%.
You had 2 championships last year?
ESPN. And
that was me. That we co-managed that team. So
but it's still a chip underneath my belt. And I had my Yahoo Gym League.
All right. Whatever you say, man. Anyways, that'll do it for this episode.
But real quick, and I got 2nd place too.
All right, bro. Second, no one remembers who got 2nd place, bro. They only remember the winner. No. Forget it. That'll do it for this episode. We'll see you guys in the next episode for the following 8 matchups. Week 8 preview. Sorry. Hopefully MLB will join us if he's out of the blender. You guys find out on the next episode. Take care, guys. Peace.
Peace.